Estou iniciando o programa Infertilidade em Foco. Eu sou a doutora Belcine, especialista em reprodução assistida humana e infertilidade. O nosso programa irá tratar vários assuntos voltados para fertilização in vitro, dificuldade de engravidar, fertilidade, infertilidade, entre outros. E hoje iremos receber um convidado muito especial. Ele que é mundialmente famoso, é um amigo e é um cientista, o doutor e professor Zavos. E hoje ele irá falar conosco sobre um tema muito importante, que é o futuro das células-tronco. Dr. Zavos é conhecido mundialmente como o pai da andrologia e pioneiro em clonagem humana.
So delighted to be with you today. I am Professor Zavos from Lexington, Kentucky, USA. I'm the professor of the University of Kentucky, and I'm here to introduce a new video that Dr. Bel Cern will be using to inform and promote our work in Brazil about the use of stem cells in reproductive medicine. I'm so delighted to be part of this program that Dr. Cern is creating and promoting in Brazil, and I look forward to spending more time with you in the future. And I thank you for that opportunity.
Be here. I want to talk to you about a very revolutionary area that is going to change the world, the way that we think about and how we execute things. I'm going to talk to you about the most powerful cell that we have in our body, namely the stem cell. And stem cell is the basic unit of life that we all have, millions of them in our bodies. And then we can trigger various different types of activities that we can give command to a cell like that to rescue us, if you will. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this rescue thing. Stem cells obviously are, like I said, they're in millions in our bodies. They move around, they execute things properly, and they replicate, just like everything else. So via mitosis, that's just cell division, the cells can obviously divide into two. The one can give rise to a neuron cell, and of course, replenish itself automatically. So we don't run out of gas here. We got plenty of it. Then, of course, we do have two different kinds of stem cells. We have the embryonic stem cells, and we have the adult stem cells. We have embryonic stem cells as long as we're an embryo. After we become adults, then we lose those embryonic stem cells, and we have plenty of populations of adult stem cells. Now, I'm going to point out to you that obviously we lose a great potential when we get rid of the embryonic stem cells, because embryonic stem cells are very potent stuff. Are the ones that obviously occur at a very early stage at an embryo, and then they give rise to all the tissues that we know of that make you up, which is about 236 tissues in your body. Then, of course, the adult stem cells are just localized, so to speak, and they can sort of rescue various different organs at different locations at different times. In other words, the heart has its own adult stem cells, the liver, the kidneys, the intestines, the skin, and what have you. And so when those things are injured, those adult stem cells are highly specialized to go to that tissue level that is damaged and rescue it, rehabilitate it. If you have a heart attack, that's what you go to. And if you don't have any stem cells, you better call your cardiologist and your heart expert to rescue you, because you don't have an internal rescue system per se. The magic thing about what we do in the stem cell area is the fact that we are learning how to educate them and how to give them commands. And that is really the most exciting thing that is happening to us today. Imagine for a moment if you had 100 kids and you let them loose in the schoolyard without a teacher and without an education, they're going to become a bunch of outlaws. But if you train them and you give them special commands and you know the language they speak, then you can take this endothelial cell and make it into a mesothelial cell, which of course can rescue your skin. So we can make skin cells out of giving specific commands to those cells, and I'm going to talk a little bit further as we go along. Now, if you think that this is just a kind of a shouting game, that you shout at the cells and say, yeah, come on, I want you to come over and have a cup of coffee or something else with me. Obviously, that's not as easy as that. In order to do these kinds of things that I'm describing to you, you need a couple of basketball teams of experts. Now, if you don't know what a basketball team is, it's a member of 5 people that play basketball. 2 makes it 10. So we have to have engineers and computer experts and doctors and scientists and all kinds of things, including, obviously, behaviorists and ethologists and all kinds of different denominations, because very simply, if you do the wrong thing, and I discovered that to be the case in America, and I ended up, obviously, before various audiences, they can chew you up and spit you out live and in color. So here I am now. I am sworn in before the Congress of the United States to testify for stem cells, and clone embryos. Now, how do those two relate? I'm going to explain further as we go along. However, I was able on August 7th, 2001, to tell the Congress of the United States to get down to their senses and stop politicizing things and appropriate money and begin to legislate in order to protect people like me and others, to get ourselves involved in this kind of research, because very simply we know how to maneuver and manipulate the most powerful cells in our bodies, and we can change the world how we diagnose a disease and how we treat a disease. Therefore, those are remarkable things that we have to do. Now, if you think for a moment that speaking to the Congress of the United States is an easy assignment, think again. Because very simply, you can obviously motivate a bunch of crooks how to make sense and listen to the people of America. I want to tell you that in the cloning business, which of course is related to stem cells, we were able to write up some very serious milestones, and we published this data, so nobody can argue about that. We were able to create the first clone embryos in the history of the world. We were able to transfer the first clone embryos in women to get them pregnant and give rise to a child clone. And then, of course, we were also able to develop a lot of different technology that enables us to understand how the system works and how we can put it to work. Just to give you an example, we created the first clone hybrid embryos via which we use cow eggs and human genome. And we put it all together, and we had a hybrid clone. Now, this hybrid clone cannot survive and give rise to a child. However, we were doing this in order to understand how the dynamics work when we put the human genome into a cow egg, so we can understand how we can put the human genome into a human egg and get results. And we're able to achieve a great deal because when they created Dolly, they used 370 eggs to create 22 clone embryos. That's less than 5% success. We were able, with this modeling business that we do, to obviously be about 50% successful instead of only 5% successful. And those were part of our criticism that we received. Now, we understand today that in order to create a three-dimensional tissue, that we need to teach those stem cells how to climb up on a scaffold and begin to build a three-dimensional configuration type of a structure. Furthermore, we were able today to sort of develop the modeling business and begin to treat various different types of diseases that obviously people suffer from. Anywhere from skin, to liver, to spleen, to pancreas. And then, of course, we are hoping also to rehabilitate people that are missing limbs. And I'm going to discuss that as we go along. One thing that is really very exciting, I gave a talk at King's College about a few years back, how to treat an infarct, a heart attack, using stem cells. And I took the work of a Texas group that today has revolutionized the way that we treat heart attacks in humans. And by so doing, we can infuse the stem cells that you see here through this tubing that is delivered at the site of the infarct. And we have a special system that is developed and can be delivered in a three-dimensional configuration at the site of the heart attack and deliver the goods, and by so doing, obviously, initiate the rehabilitation process of heart attack victims. Now, normally a heart attack victim loses about 60 to 80% of the tissue when they have a heart attack. With this, they lose less than 20% of the tissue. Therefore, they regain and they do it faster. So this is remarkable technology. And of course, you know very well that in America, we die a lot from heart attacks. In Cyprus, for instance, it's the #1 killer, as I understand. And it's about time that Cyprus gives up the frappe, the souvlaki, and start walking if you want to live longer. Now, we also created the first clone embryos or embryos via embryo splitting. What we do here is that we are able to take a 4-cell stage embryo that you see here, remove 2 cells out of that, bring them over here and shoot them directly into a zona that is empty, and we can create 2 embryos that are clone of each other. They're identical twins. Now, when I went to England and I said I want to create the first human being that can come with a spare tire, I really meant to say that the first embryo can be made into a baby, the second embryo can be frozen and used later, 30, 40, 50 years later, as a source of embryonic stem cells in order to rehabilitate, that individual in case of an injury. Moral of the story is that we want to look futuristically. We want to look down if a car manufacturer can create a car with a spare tire, why can't we create a human with a spare tire? We need it. Now, we came a long way, and today we can create actually stem cells from skin cells, and therefore we may not need this particular technology, but think for a moment that you can take this and then freeze the other embryo, and then 20 years later you can say, I really want to have a twin brother born. Let's transfer it and see how the little one looks. That would be remarkable, wouldn't it? Scientists are now capable of making stem cells from skin cells, as I indicated. This is really revolutionizes the whole picture about how we're going to deal with stem cells in the future. And stem cells today are used for in vivo as well as in vitro, meaning we can do it in a live situation or in a petri dish, where we can create things and put it all together. We can treat people with joint injuries. We can treat people with liver deficiencies and liver diseases. Hepatitis A, B, and C is killing the world, especially the B's and the C's. And of course, if you keep drinking, you're probably going to need one of those anyway. So that's the future. Now, recently a group in LA developed this technology, which of course is not too far off, that we can infuse the stem cells. Oh, I'm so sorry, I went too far. They can infuse the stem cells after we grow them in a petri dish inside the posterior chamber of the eye, and by so doing, we can regenerate the retina, which is the tissue that enables you to see. And for those people that have detached retinas or injured retinas, then that becomes an issue. Now, I happen to be an organ transplant myself, and I had a cornea transplant about 2 years ago because I suffered from a cornea laceration, changing a light bulb in a microscope, being a dedicated scientist. I blew up a light bulb that cut my eye and injured me, and I had a cornea transplant, and today, because of that allotransplantation, meaning that I used a cornea from a cadaver, from a dead person, to transfer into my left eye, I have to infuse the immunosuppressant that suppresses the rejection of my cornea every day. Now, if we create embryos or anything from the stem cells or any cells that you have, and we transplant them in you, this particular problem is alleviated completely. Therefore, the rejection of the tissues, which happens up to 60% of the time, is not quite there. It's less than 20%. And therefore, the complications are reduced tremendously, and success rate goes up sky high. Now, our team, because we're reproductive specialists, we develop a technology now, and I can't talk too much about it because we haven't published it yet, where we can take males that do not produce sperm cells in their testes, and by infusing stem cells in the testes directly, we can get those testes to go back to producing sperm cells again, and those men can obviously biologically reproduce and have biological children of their own. That's very important. And we Cypriots take that very seriously, don't we? Now, the scaffolding business is very important because we're simply, by creating three-dimensional configuration scaffolds, we can teach the stem cells how to create a trachea. This is a human trachea that is developed in vitro and is ready to be transplanted in an individual that obviously had tracheal cancer of some sort. Therefore, this is very important, and we can do this routinely. Routinely meaning that anybody that wants a trachea, we can take a plastic tube that you see here, embed it with a bunch of stem cells around it, and differentiate into, obviously, epithelial cells and what have you, and create a trachea that can be transplanted in you, and then you don't have a problem. Now, this is done for the first time almost 5 years ago in Spain. Today, it's becoming a routine process, and it's very successful, incidentally. Now, I want to show you this particular picture and tell you a little bit about this for a moment. I was going to show you a video yesterday, but today I decided not to, but just to describe for you that now the technology in the laboratory can create an image of a heart. And now by using three-dimensional printing, as we call it, we can take that heart image in a three-dimensional configuration and have the three-dimensional printer over here. Instead of infusing ink, we're infusing stem cells, and therefore those stem cells can create an organ that can be transplanted further. The sky is the limit. Can we grow legs for this man? We have thousands of those amputees, thanks to George W. Bush and company, that created them in Afghanistan and Iraq. And so now we are somewhat, the Pentagon is spending millions of dollars to create technology that we can rehabilitate those people. So long story short, ladies and gentlemen, the facts are that what I just told you is not a story. Stem cells are here to stay, and the facts speak for themselves. This is no fantasy anymore. This is the real thing. And I thank you.
A palestra do Dr. Zavos foi excelente e muito esclarecedora. E agora nós vamos assistir uma parte de um depoimento do Dr. Zavos sobre a época que foi iniciado o estudo, as pesquisas sobre a clonagem humana. Vamos lá?
But in Lexington, Kentucky, one reproductive specialist says the time for human cloning has come. Panos Zavos has been working with infertile couples since 1978.
We can clone a human embryo as early as tomorrow. But to clone a human embryo for reproductive purposes, that means that you need to take that embryo and make sure that it is absolutely, positively, definitely perfect. There's almost a 4% incidence of abnormalities when you do it normally, under natural conditions, in your own bedroom. Therefore, those are imperfections that everybody lives with, and we're prepared to live with our imperfections as well. After the first baby, the reproductive cloning baby is born, and we dress it either in light blue or a hot pink, as my daughter says. They will love it to death, just like everything else.
Once we start tweaking genes, it's hard to predict where we'll end up.
We can go as far as assisting somebody to have a biological child of their own. But the minute that we begin to change eye color and height and features of that nature and try to create a superior child, I think that's dangerous. People want it. Today they're asking for a new mode of reproductive assistance, and people that don't have any testes, people that don't have any ovaries, they can go to a different level. We are obviously making every preparation to clone embryos for reproductive purposes. We're not going to step on dead bodies or deformed babies to get there. Banning it is just not going to make it go away. It's just like sweeping an elephant under the rug. You can try. It's just not possible. If the U.S. would decide to ban this technology, it would not affect us in any way, shape, and form. We have friendlier countries, friendlier territories, friendlier people to be working with us.
As we say in the U.S., we have a home run.
Dr. Panayotis Zavos claims to have cloned 14 human embryos, the genetic equivalent of Xerox copies.
Nobody has done this before.
Not only that, he says he implanted the cloned embryos in the wombs of 4 different women. For genetic researchers, human cloning is completely taboo. On that, the Pope and the President agree.
We're not going to be judged by the politicians and the clergymen, but rather by the fertility or infertility patients, rather, that need to have a child, a biological child of their own.
But that could be a long ways off. It took 276 failed attempts to implant a cloned sheep embryo to end up with Dolly. And so far, Dr. Zavos says all of his cloned human embryos have miscarried, but he'll keep trying.
Dr. Zavos apparently has a lot of clients who want to be cloned or to have their deceased offspring cloned, and they're willing to pay a lot of money to do it.
Dr. Zavos insists his work is ethical and responsible. Others will have their doubts. But here in the U.S., there's no law against it.
A infertilidade vem aumentando a cada dia. Em cada 6 pessoas, uma é infértil. Essa infertilidade está sendo causada por vários fatores. Biológicos, econômicos, culturais. Após a Segunda Guerra Mundial, as mulheres começaram a ocupar o seu espaço na sociedade. E com isso, a gravidez está sendo cada vez mais tardia. A solução poderia ser o congelamento dos óvulos, dos embriões para uma posterior gravidez. E o meu programa irá tratar várias formas de ajudar esses casais a realizarem o sonho de terem um filho. Vocês estão gostando do programa? Espero que sim. Quem tiver alguma dúvida, quiser perguntar alguma coisa, pode enviar as perguntas para a produção do programa, que eu terei prazer em respondê-los. O link do programa está logo abaixo, então é só vocês entrarem em contato, ok? As células-tronco, com seu potencial em diferenciação celular, é capaz de recompor, reconstituir vários tipos de tecidos. No próximo programa, teremos uma entrevista exclusiva com o Dr. Zavos, falando sobre as suas pesquisas e reconstituição e contribuição das células-tronco para a fertilização humana. Estou encerrando o programa Infertilidade em Foco. Aguardo vocês na próxima semana. Espero que tenham gostado. Teremos um convidado muito especial. Até lá!